Hello, I'm Donald Leggett, and welcome to our latest London South East CEO interview. Our guest today is George Lucan, Managing Director of Angus Energy, the onshore UK gas and oil specialist. Welcome, George.
Morning, Donald. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's lovely to have you back, George.
Yes, good to see you again.
Let me start by asking you about Salt Fleetby and the gas construction agreement which you've just announced with the National Grid. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, it's very exciting because it's, if you like, the first big contract we signed around this field. It means that a third party, and no one less important than the very top of the pyramid, National Grid, are going about the actual business of constructing their end of the pipeline. That means that they've been reviewing as well our own work here, and they're seeing a very sensible plan and program ahead. So it's actual things happening now.
There aren't too many of these major connections to the grid in the UK, are there? Is it something like 12 or 13?
Yeah, that's right, in terms of entry points. And I don't think they've done one of these for a good few years. So it's quite fun for both sides in that, you know, we're both keeping up skill sets and learning new things, and very exciting for us personally.
Indeed. So to reconnect Salt Fleetby to the grid means not just the National Grid element, but building a small gas processing plant and a 600-metre pipeline. So could you tell us where you're at with those, and give me a rough estimate, if you can't give us more, in terms of the capex for the entire thing?
For the entire thing. Well, let's break it down. So we put in our planning to do this pipeline, and I'm guessing, if we're, God willing, we'll get an answer from committee at the beginning of September. We can then go straight into works. Yesterday we had a site visit for what's called a HAZCON. That's where you identify all the hazards involved in construction. So we had the drillers there, because we're doing a lot of this underground, and we had the trenchers, and we had the guys who'd be doing the welding, and the guys who'd be laying the actual pipe, all there together, plodding around the muddy fields of Lincolnshire. That was fantastic. So today we actually have what's called the HAZCON meeting itself, identify all those hazards. Next week, probably tail end of next week, we have what's called a HAZID. You identify all the dangers to do with the pipeline. You then do a HAZOP, and that's where you worry about how it's going to be operated and maintained, and you come up with all sorts of safety plans around it. And then hopefully planning, as I say, early September, and then we do it, and hopefully a month, no more, on and off site. And I say that because it starts raining in Lincolnshire. You need scuba kit to be doing your welding, and we'll have Jean-Claude Cousteau or whatever down there taking photographs. It's very wet up there, and it's very low lying.
And could I bring you back to cost, George? Costs? What do we think in terms of capex?
I reckon about 1.75. I think we've said in the CPR 1.5 to 2. There's still bits of bids coming in. But that would be my very rough guess. I don't want to get taken down for being 100 or 200 out there, but that's what we're looking at. And I think we said for the whole project, we were always aiming for 2.5. So that leaves 0.75 for the actual site. The site we do have planning permission for, but there's two aspects to the finance there. We definitely, for the heavier bits of kit, we always envisaged a kind of lease financing package direct into the JOA. So we were agreed with our partners, all this kit's around being replaced over 10 years, that it's borne directly. So the leasing costs of that are borne directly by the JOA. It's not a capex item for Angus as such, although we'll have to organise that finance. And a number of the bidders have offered various different sorts of financing packages. But it's some hefty kit. In terms of the impact on MPV, I don't think we'll see much of a material impact on our core case of MPV. We didn't break out leasing costs in the CPR, but we did have a contingency in there in our own estimates of OPEX. So, I won't say we're perfectly within budget, but we're not racing out of budget either. We're very much in control of this right now, to date.
Good to hear. Talking of leasing the gas processing kit, where are you with that? And if you could give us a brief update.
Okay, so we had tenders out to 11 people. we've narrowed it down, I think, to 2 or 3 bidders for the bulk of the kit. It's by and large a stitch job. There isn't really a full turnkey provider. Well, there's one potential full turnkey where they do the whole lot, start to finish. So we've got to make a final evaluation really this week. What's held us back has been we need all sorts of intricate agreements with National Grid about the sorts of kit we use, because the sorts of kit we use affects the actual gas itself that they receive. So they want to, they're putting their nose over the fence and saying, what are you doing here? Making sure it's all right, it's all up to spec. So there's a degree of to and fro, and this has been going on now for 2 or 3 weeks. We hope at the end of that, we're in a position to actually select the kit. Then, Donald, it's about getting it to Salt Fleetby, probably by port into Humber, and then by road onto site. But the key things are every site's different, so you're going to have to rejig this kit a little bit. There'll be all sorts of feeder lines and backflows and little bits of work and tinkering, and this endless process of certification, which fills me, the one thing fills me with horror, which is where you have files and files of paperwork and approvals, and this weld was right and that weld was right. And it's a big process to make sure the UK authorities in particular are really careful, which is why we've got such a good safety record.
Okay, let me take you on to planning consent. 2 pieces of planning consent are required, as I understand, for Salt Fleetby. The pipeline has been consented, and what's the timeline for the remainder? You've nodded to it. September. Well, tell us more.
Well, I'll tell you more. First of all, our planning is in, as you said, September. National Grid don't require planning. I think there's a misapprehension on part of some of our shareholders that why National Grid is signing this agreement. They never let anybody else go and do work on their site except under their supervision. No one plays with their $1 billion toy except them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so they're unusual. They've got tremendous powers. I don't even think they require planning permission. So back to our site, that planning permission is in. So in theory, we could do it all tomorrow. And is COVID holding us back a bit? Yes, I think the bidders have been a bit slow. I reckon we'd start to see bits of kit roll on in October and all the way through November. We've got about 10 big items, chunky-ish, discrete items, and then hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of small bits. So that will be a process of construction that will be going on through October, November, December, and we're on the point of appointing the principal designer and contractor for that, as we have already done for the pipeline.
It sounds as though you're making good progress.
Well, we are, and it's tremendous fun and very intellectually challenging and exhausting. We've got a team. I could have tried to furlough some of them along with other bits of the industry, but this is our chance to go from being a 5 million market cap to being a 25 million market cap, and I want to throw everything I've got at it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Talking about the natural challenges in life, Salt Fleetby is close to the coast and prone to winter flooding. So when would you hope to have the majority of the construction work done by, or be facing bigger problems?
If I don't get the pipeline done in October, it will be difficult, and all the contractors said. You've got increased cost, almost certainly. You're pumping the whole time, and it's not as safe. It's going to take longer, and so on. So yes, that's a threat for me. The site's on raised ground. You can row to it on a bad winter, but it's on raised ground, so we can carry on working there. We don't have any deep level civils to do there, so we're just there'll be some concrete pads, but we're not going down below the surface. As well, except to get gas, and then we've already got the wells for that, Donald.
Okay, notwithstanding COVID delays or having to build in water, when do you hope to have gas flowing again?
We do hope to have gas flowing again around New Year. There'll be a commissioning period. How long that commissioning period is, I can't tell you, but it's not. It's commissioning is probably not in your gift. Exactly. We're toing and froing and making sure all the engines work on time and everybody's happy with the spec of the gas. And that's essentially it. One of the big things we have is we have a pipeline. That's our own pipeline down to grid of 8 odd miles, and we want to make sure bad gas never gets into that, because if it does, we have to vent the whole line. somewhere down the line, and it's a bore and you stop production for a day or two. So one of my big things is to get in lots and lots of analyzers. They give us a more or less real-time understanding of what's going out of our system, and so we can shut the pipe and just very quickly clear it in an hour or two and resume production. So a lot of this is planning, Donald, for production over 12 years, getting it right today.
Get it right today for the next 12 years. Okay, sounds very sensible. It's probably worth underlying at this point that you expect to receive net annual revenues of between £3 and £4 million from Salt Fleetby once gas does start to flow. So as you say, New Year time, perhaps just after. What kind of a deal do you think you've struck?
Oh, in terms of offtake?
Yes.
All right. Well,
not in terms of offtake, in terms of the overall strategy and the fact that you've actually got yourself into all this.
Well, the overall strategy is fantastic. You know, we've been paid to put something back online and been given 51% of it. It means it really is the most fantastic deal for shareholders, and I think people couldn't believe it at first. And I've said this before. They've said, "Oh well, you bought an abandonment liability. That's all you got yourself into, Angus, you twits." And we went and evaluated that third-party well examiner. No, you're right, Angus. It is about that price, 2.5 million, and we promptly closed down 2 of the wells, well within budget. So that's 2 out of the 8 already knocked off. So that's one part. Then they said, "Well, the reserves aren't there, Angus. You're wrong about that." And we got in a third-party guy, and he comes in and says, "No, low case, Angus. You've got 17 million pounds worth of value there at a mid price. A medium case, you've got 25 million. High case, you've got 30 odd million, and that's all at a sensible long-term gas price. So yes, it's a fantastic deal." And then they said, "You're not going to connect it," and here we are now, on field with the drillers, with the diggers, with the trenchers, with the people who are going to lay and weld this pipe, and we're doing it. And there's National Grid come out and tell shareholders we're doing our bit. I mean, I can't promise everything is going to be precisely on time, precisely within budget, but I'm not seeing big horrors here, and I'm seeing a field that's going to be brought back to life. It's going to deliver that value to shareholders. So I'm pretty happy. Yeah, it's a fantastic deal.
Fantastic. Let's turn to the Weald. Let's turn to Balcombe, Brockham, and the Weald. Where do those elements fit into the Angus strategy?
Well, I think, to be honest with you, they are, to a point, they're legacy elements. We had bad luck with Brockham. We all know about it. It's oil exploration. Sometimes you hit a duster, and we hit a duster there. And we did everything we conceivably could. Brockham and the license still have value. There's still Portland there. We will still produce from that. We'll use water injection to stimulate production. We think the economics of that field will deliver further value to shareholders, and it's not worth walking away from. Lidsey, similarly, production is low, but with water injection solved by water disposal there solved, we think that thing will wash its face, and we think there's a genuinely exciting prospect there. There are not many places you can get permission to drill anymore south of Watford Gap. It's really, really difficult. People don't want to see it. But with Lidsey, we've got a better chance than most, and I'll tell you why. But essentially, it's sandwiched next door to a sewerage plant. It's not in the AONB, like Balcombe, which is more difficult. So we still think there's value in those 2 assets. Balcombe, we know there's some oil there. We have dug, we've seen it, touched it, and so on. So
all this would be easier with fracking, wouldn't it, George? But on the UK mainland, no fracking allowed. Is that right?
That's right. And we don't do fracking as a company. We don't want to do fracking. There's some costs with it as well, which we don't like. And we still believe conventional extraction, even from the Kimmeridge, is possible. And we do have a decent level of confidence about Balcombe. We've had to pull our planning app and rework it. We're going to resubmit within the next month or so. And that would probably put us on site there either just this side of Christmas or the other side into the new year, depending on final approval. But we're reasonably confident that we should get approval for that. And we've perhaps been tiptoeing around this. We've got a really low footprint there. We've really tried with local residents to make sure that they understand what we're doing and that we're not doing very much in terms of noise or pollution. But it's hard work. in the south. It's more populated, people are sensitive, and we have to be sensitive too.
Okay, if West Sussex County Council are not minded to give you planning permission for a well at Balcombe, might you not be better to focus management time on more deliverable projects?
I think if they're not, wouldn't want to tie the company up in the management area in a lengthy planning dispute exercise. But equally, we put good money here and good work here, and I think most commercial operators would have sympathy for us in saying that nothing's changed. You're doing less than you were doing before, making less noise. You're not drilling anything new. And you put in 5 odd million quid and quite a bit into the local economy, you've got a reasonable expectation of some decent leeway to be granted to you. That may be naive in modern planning, but I'm not willing to just walk away without some sort of putting up some little bit of a fight if need be.
We talked to you a fair bit, George, but what about the New Angus team? What are their qualifications for a high-pressure gas field reconnection to the national grid?
Well, we've got the core Old Angus team, and that wasn't without high-pressure gas experience. So our technical director, Andrew Hollis, he had 30-odd years in that field, most of it with British Gas. We added to that when we acquired Saltfleet B, our director of operations. He'd been there since the start of the field back in 1999. There isn't a widget or a bolt or a nut he doesn't know. He's well supported there. We have another mechanical engineer and process guy who's also been there for the last 10 years. We have just added a process engineer with a spectacular CV because we're now doing the actual processing on site rather than leaving it to the nearby refinery. So that's the core team, to which we've added a lot of compliance and regulatory infrastructure and help. And the consultancy bill has gone up a little bit. But that's necessary. We're not doing low pressure oil wells. We're doing high pressure, heavily regulated stuff. We need very thorough developed management, architecture and regulatory systems. And we've been lucky to get some people from Quadrilla who were under the most intense scrutiny over the last 5 years for their fracking. We're not, of course, doing fracking, but they have some of the best systems. And we've been very lucky to get a couple of their senior people on board to go and upgrade our own systems. So I'm very happy we've brought together the team we need.
You have a fair number of stakeholders to keep happy these days.
That is absolutely right. Yes, HSE, National Grid, Environment Agency, and it's a job of work.
And you have the team on board to do it.
We've got the people to do the job for sure, Donald.
Okay. What about a quick question about G&A? What are the plans for rent? What are the plans for office space going forwards?
Office space is one we're going to lose. So our lease comes up at the end of September in London, and we're going to get rid of that, and we're going to hot desk 4 desks somewhere very, very cheaply. We're looking at Paddington right now, whether anywhere. We have some other options. We've been offered some space for free. The rest of the real estate, mostly it's sites, and we can't lose them. So we've got 3 sites in the south. Saltfleet comes with actually 3 different properties.
So the sites, there's a cost keeping the sites going, is there?
That's exactly right. But I would expect in the year from September to September 2020, a very substantial reduction in our real estate costs. And so that is one thing we can address. As I said earlier, I can't furlough people right now. I need every last second of every single.
No, it's the opposite. You're actually gearing up, not gearing down.
Exactly.
No, this is business time. This is hay.
Exactly.
This is you're making hay. You have to get Saltfleet B in and on.
You got it. You got it.
Very good. Let me ask you, do you have any thoughts beyond Saltfleet B yet? And my final thought, what will Angus look like in 2 years' time?
2 years' time, we're going to be a mixture of a gas producer and an ongoing explorer. And there'll be times when we dip into oil again, but the focus is on gas production. We're going to be a very profitable one with a regular, steady cash flow. We'll be dividend paying, and we'll be looking across, I think, most European jurisdictions, and that will be our principal focus. I don't want to be going out into the wilder zones. I want to be sticking with a place where the gas is going to get consumed locally. And we'll be leveraging off a low-cost operating experience.
George, thank you very much indeed for chatting to us. That was very illuminating. Thank you very much indeed. For more interviews like this one, please do subscribe to the London South East YouTube channel. And my final thought, thank you for watching and do stay safe.